Hi, everybody. Welcome back to week 5 of our online learning. As always, information about online learning can be found at the top under Online Learning Introduction. You can click to see the class information. So if you need to email me, join office hours, a class, or anything like that, you can see that information here, or you can schedule a meeting here, and also how to join the live classes. Our class schedule is on here, as well as this week's work. So this week for period 5 and 6, you have your Bellringer question, you have a news ELA article, and then you have a Quizlet on types of slavery. Now this is going to be to help you study for a quiz you're going to have next week on the 5 types of slavery, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So this is where you're going to be able to see the videos for this week, the one that I'm recording right now. And then here is this week's Bellringer. What was your favorite part of last week? And then what was the most difficult part of last week? So you could say, my favorite part of last week was, the most difficult part of last week was, right? And you'll be answering that Bellringer question. Then when you're done with that, you're going to do the Stories of Slavery News ELA. So you're going to click on that, and you can see the directions right here. Read the article and answer the multiple choice questions and complete the written response. If you don't want to read about forced marriage, skip Anita and Nita's stories. So obviously we're talking about a very sensitive topic with forced marriage and some of the things that happen to women in slavery. If you don't feel comfortable reading about that, that's okay. You can skip those 2 parts. So I'll show you right here in just a second. So this is the article you're going to be reading. And yes, I can see when you read it and how long you read it for. Please make sure that you're answering both the quiz questions here and also that you are doing the writing portion. I've seen a lot of people just do the questions but skip the writing portion. Right? But we'll get to that in just a second. Remember, you can change the level of the article, but for just about everyone, it should be the same. And if you did last week's word, this is actually really familiar. So if you want to skip the Nita section, that's okay. Nita 16 Nepal, that should be the same section on any copy of these. And then the other section you can skip is Anita, right? 15 years old from Kenya. Those are the parts about forced marriage. So if that makes you really uncomfortable, because there is, I think as you saw on the top of all these articles, there is a little sensitive content, right? Warning on there. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to, right? And this week shouldn't ask you to do that. So if you look at the writing prompt, here's what you're going to be doing. So it says to write a short paragraph explaining how the person in the article changed. Use details to show how they changed. So if you do the first person on here, I think it's Elvira, right? You're going to talk about what she was like at the beginning of her story, and then at the very end of the story, right, how were things different from her? And you're going to want to use some kind of quote from the text, a detail, to show exactly how that happened. So that's what you're writing, and that's what you're being graded on in addition to the quiz questions. So please make sure you do both, right? Now, when you're done with that, you're going to do your Quizlet practice. Now, I will say that you should probably make sure that you're totally caught up with your work at this point, because now we're at the studying part. So all the things that we've done so far, right, you want to make sure that that's been what you've been doing, right? So I want to please make sure that you're caught up so that you're ready to study for the quiz. So the most important assignments that you should have done up until this point, you have the modern slavery Google Slides. And it looks like some people still need to get theirs in, but this is the one that you really need to study in order to do well on the quiz. Right, so you're supposed to go through this one and you are supposed to watch about the 5 types of slavery and read the articles for each one and then answer some questions, right, about it to be your notes to help you study for the quiz. The Quizlet only has the definitions, but that's not going to be enough for you to understand the differences between the 5 types. So make sure that you go through and you're actually thinking about what they mean. And then make sure you also do last week's assignment where you had to go through and tell me for each of the stories, right, for 2 stories that you picked, what type of slavery it was. It actually turns out that these are going to be the ones I'm going to pick from for the quiz questions. So as you're going through, right, you want to be thinking about which type of slavery it is, right? So you're reading through these and you're picking 2, right, to figure out which one it is. Let's do an example together. So this is Elvira. She's age 50 from the Philippines. And it says, my husband couldn't work anymore because he was very sick. I had to find a job that paid enough and I ended up working for a woman in England. She made me work all the time and sleep on the floor. I was just given a piece of bread and a cup of tea for the whole day. I felt like a slave or like I was in prison. One morning, I ran away and hid inside a nearby church. I hope to get justice and go home soon. So this one's kind of tricky, right? It doesn't say exactly what kind of work that she does, but it does say that she's working for a woman, right? She's not just working for like a restaurant or a factory, right? She's working for just one woman, right? And that she has to work all the time there and sleep on the floor, right? Uh, and it was like being in prison, in that person's home. So that's going to tell us that it's domestic servitude, the kind of slavery where you have to work in someone's home without ever leaving. So this is the picture that kind of talks about it, but basically that's what the quiz is going to look like. You're going to have the stories, and then you have to figure out for each story which one it is. And there's one best answer that you need to pick out. So just like there's the 5 types of slavery, there's going to be 5 of those stories taken right from the article, right? So if you study those, you will do really well on it, right? So you just need to know and be able to tell the different types.